Back to Philippines Uncut. I'm Buddy Kunana. Tonight's topic is celebrating International Women's Month. And we're still joined by Secretary Balisno, but joining her is another outstanding lady in her own right. And this is the first time I've had two outstanding women in the service of the nation or towns as guests on my show. And none other than Cecile Gadote Alvarez, the Director of the Earth Savers UNESCO, Artists for Peace. Good evening, Ms. Alvarez. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Buddy. And I'm so delighted because we can connect March as Women's Month with World Theater Month.
Yes.
And the connectivity of arts, since she's talking about education, that the Education for All policy of UNESCO, or now pushed by the UN Secretary General, Global Education First Initiative, which stresses that you can't solve any problem unless you push education first.
Yes.
But you can't really let education work that fast unless you have a catalyst like culture and the arts.
What do you have to say about that, Secretary Balisno? You've spent, as you said, 5 decades in education. How important is arts and culture in pushing the agenda of education?
Oh yes, very important indeed. You know, especially when you go into harmony and, you know, the music, for instance, the seamlessness of partnership, teamwork, those are very important in the arts. And education is a part of it. That's why I was always advocating, if possible, that just like in Japan, when we visit the classrooms, elementary and high school, they have a grand piano there. And they have all the musical instruments. So the children coming from the poorest of the poor can have the access to have these kinds of instruments. But so before I started trying to say, maybe we can ask donors who could have this. So together with that, a very pleasant harmony of instrumentation together with academics. So
but actually the arts, which isn't really that well incorporated, and right now, hopefully with K to 12, it's going to be more fully included in the curriculum.
Why is that? How come with K to 12 there will be more focus on the arts as opposed to before, the old system?
Because they're reviewing the curriculum and now they're understanding. And very recently, I mean, the United Nations itself, and talking of women, UNESCO is so dynamic now because its Director General is a woman, the first in 60 years, Dr. Irina Bokova. So the push now in the UN is accepting that there has been a failure in development, in the development process, because the cultural ingredient was absent or wasn't really taken seriously. So this is great. I mean, after laboring and struggling and screaming about how important the arts is, and we just showed it. We had as a partner UNESCO, and Dr. Gishan from the Asia Pacific Bureau was there. It was hosted in Bohol by Governor Chato. We organized it as a UNESCO Dream Center, synergized with NCCA National Committee for Dramatic Arts, which was the last major effort of Gardi Labad. And we showed very effectively how arts has a tremendous power for healing, trauma. Just up to now, we are faced with the sad portraits of our people wallowing in their places where they were hit hard, whether it's the earthquake, whether it is war, whether it is the typhoon, the super typhoon. You see the misery, and you see that those affected with incalculable grief of loss. You're not just talking of loved ones, or you're not just talking of homes, but it's your loved ones. So you get, you're in a state of discombobulation, or even some are in a catatonic state. Akala ni tulala at tuliro. So you need a special tool, a creative tool, innovative, that will partner with other disciplines in addressing people in a desperate state.
Yes, yes.
So arts is the only fast one that can involve them, provide them the release of the angst, of the anger, of
right.
the
I agree.
agony. You know,
Yes.
you have to give them hope
Yeah.
that there is a resurrection after the Calvary. You know, it's very important that you use all of the artistic disciplines, whether it's music, whether it's drama, whether it's painting. You should be able to involve them. You should be able to touch them,
Yes.
that they're not alone. You're caring for them. There is empathy, there's sympathy. But what this thing did was to sensitize people, to empathize.
Yes, yes.
The whole world cared for us.
Yes.
And that's
as
what's
for,
important.
For social change, arts really is effective because it hits the heart. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not
Right.
so much the mind, but here,
That's
and you know, if
true.
you have the heart,
Yes.
the rest will follow.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Pero Secretary, how come in the Philippines, or let's say in general, how come, as Mrs. Alvarez said, parang arts has been neglected in education, even now? I mean, parents, okay, parang arts is something that you do on the side. It's not something really integrated into mainstream curriculum.
That's right.
What's the problem?
That's why I think it's a good thing that Cecil mentioned about the grades 11 and 12, that we can now strategically plan, and then first of all, the ingredient is a critical analysis, and that's a must. So that's why that is something that we try to look into, how we could integrate all these things now. Now, one effect, because at that time we had divided education into different levels.
Yeah.
It's not only the 3 elementary, high school, 1, and then CHED and technical, but also culture and arts and the sports. But during my time, when I was at the director's level, that's only one department of education, culture and sports.
So coordinated.
Coordinated lahat yan. Kaya ngayon, ang hope dito, sabi nga, yung grades 11 and 12, that's one.
Yeah.
Second is that we must make this culture and arts affordable.
Yeah, that's
Mahal. It costs.
You know,
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, when I was a student at the University of Toronto, every time a famous painter or a famous composer, a famous violinist, a pianist, you know, all the students free, okay? And so we line up kilometers just so we could get a ticket for free. So that in the concert, you don't have to pay. The rich people pay up to, I remember, $12. It's already expensive during my time.
Oh, it's big.
Now,
Oh, oh.
but it should be
Okay.
made accessible. Yun sana.
And this is
Right.
budget, okay?
Okay.
And actually now,
Right.
there is a National Commission for Culture and the Arts. My husband was one of the principal, really the major sponsor of this, because you really need to have independent funding for the arts. However, it's recent, right? What we wanted long ago, and that was even during the time when Ninoy stood up in the Senate, what we were asking was that $67 million of veterans education fund for reparation should have gone to developing an arts curriculum from kindergarten to high school, developing regional professional arts training schools. I mean, money went to cement and stones. It should have been undertaken for this kind of enrichment, development rooted in our traditional culture, our indigenous heritage. This is creative empowerment. And this has been the fact that, well, they think of arts as just entertainment.
Yun nga
And
po,
that is the mindset that has to be cast aside, and you put the value of arts, its role in society, how it can really help fight poverty. That's why you said it's expensive. We introduced, you were there, buddy, when you were a consultant in NCCA, what we called cultural caregiving. It is the right of every citizen to have a relevant arts educational experience. Not just those who can enter Ateneo or La Salle. It's got to be everybody in the public school and out of school. And this is where TESDA, we have been asking, should integrate in its VocTech curriculum cultural caregiving, so that the out-of-school youth, the crippled, the blind, who is not in the formal curriculum, even those in prison, can be accessed.
Right. Okay.
And that should be a policy. I'm glad I was able to talk to Brother Armin, because he said it can be integrated, because they just launched the Safe Schools with the United Nations. And I said that, you know, we have this program, there is a Bohol Declaration. We hope that it can really be part, and he said, yes, sure, it should be part of the K to 12. I hope, you know, that really gets executed. Because it cannot remain in words. It's gotta be action.
Kaya po, Secretary, you were in DepEd for a long time. I mean, what is the reception of the DepEd? I mean, what is the mentality of DepEd when it comes to culture and arts? Is it something that they view, I mean, the hierarchy in DepEd, I mean, do they view it as important? Do they see value in it?
Well, the way I look at it, yes, they do, except that really we need some monitoring into these things.
How are they gonna do it?
How are they going to do this? Because then it should be made available. To me, Cecil,
There's something good now. There are regional art schools that has been done.
Yeah.
But still, there should be stronger special arts education. I work with persons with disabilities. And it is amazing. Governor Chato was very enthused to see our Earth Savers UNESCO Artists for Peace, Bulag, Pilay, you know, able to achieve and triumph over adversity or any kind of challenge. That's what's inspiring. And if you can contaminate people with that spirit, I mean, we will be able to face any challenge. And then, as you said, I'm glad you said that arts is very important, not just for harmony, for discipline,
Nation
for
building,
team, for cooperation.
Uniting the people.
Oh, kasi kanya-kanyahan eh. But
Yeah.
you can't produce theater without cooperation.
That's true.
So when you have that discipline, it's inborn, I mean, it's integrated in your mindset, then it becomes a habit, a way of acting.
Pero Ms. Alvarez, to push arts, you really need money to push arts, and as a form of, to include it in the curriculum of schools, of the education system, you need it. You really need funding.
You
but
add
you know,
teachers.
Consul General, I was thinking of involving the parents in the community.
Interesting.
Definitely.
Because when I was with DepEd, we started out trying to put them together, and that will also ease up even this monitoring of how many voters and who are those voters there. And then we inject the arts, culture, music, you know.
I have a suggestion, and because you're a Department of Education person. One, there is a problem about joblessness, okay? I'm suggesting that if we can train and we can have a directory of really good artists, they can be hired as artists in residence in schools, so that they can help in initiating, guiding the artistic integration into the curriculum, or even guiding the extracurricular activities. That will give you so much jobs. Do you know that during the Depression, FDR involved artists in the massive effort of finding employment. Number two, yung mga CTC, ano yun, yung conditional thing, bigyan ng, ang dapat mabibigyan rin yung mga bulag, pilay, etc. Pwede rin silang bigyan because they can be given the capacity. Hindi kailangan magpalimos ang bulag. I mean, we have perfect examples. For instance, Rico Del Rosario is blind. He has a family he can support because of his talent. You know, we have a polio victim, or even cerebral palsy victim, that they don't have to beg or feel, because they all have a certain capacity which can be developed.
I see.
And the arts is the real tool
Right.
for discovering it, building it, and if it is used as a policy, inclusive growth that the president keeps on harping can be undertaken.
Yes, yeah.
You know, associations like our association, towns.
Towns,
are-
well, I hope they
Yeah.
help our healing thing.
You are there. We have the very, very prestigious artist. So maybe you can work together and do something like this.
Yeah,
Very
that's
good.
Nandiyan sila si Lea Solonga.
Yeah, this is what
all of-
World
all
Theater
of those.
Month is. It's
Lisa Makuha.
celebrate.
Yes,
Well,
all of
Lisa is
those.
part of our
All right.
executive
So
council.
they're all there. We have Santa Maria, the pianist. So I guess you can form a group there.
Sure.
And you in the theater. Why
Yeah.
don't you do that? Actually.
Well,
yes.
we've formed it,
Yeah.
and we're open
Yeah.
to it's an open
That's right.
invitation to mobilize
Yeah.
them as a creative
Together,
army,
so-
because it isn't just
So you help the public schools
performing to
especially.
help funding,
Right.
Yes,
but it is also giving of your time in the teaching process. That's why we call it
As
cultural
Secretary said, I mean,
caregiving.
itong towns, the 10 outstanding women in the service
Yeah.
of the nation, power
right.
pack pala to. And
Yeah,
if
it
women
is.
can
Yeah, oh,
take
yeah.
the lead
That's
in
right.
this initiative,
Yeah,
so much
exactly.
better.
We're doing it,
Right.
but it needs
It's a foundation.
stronger advocacy. We would have been a kept secret about World Theater
we're,
Month.
we're
if
very
we
proud
don't.
of the Chief Justice, our also Towns
Oh,
Award.
she's also Towns Awardee.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So, things like this. So,
So-
we can,
Yeah, definitely. I was glad I was able to talk to
Right.
Brother. I mean, we in fact got a CHED memo as well as a DEP memo for participation in the concept of a movement. We call it Rainbow Cross. Why rainbow? Because it's multicolored. It's interdisciplinary. It's interfaith.
Inclusive,
We have it's inclusive. It's innovative, and so the cross is culture. Well, however you want to call it. You can call it rehabilitation, rejuvenation, orientation for safety and survival. That's what this is about now. A lot of the scientific data is not communicated effectively to the people. It's got to be in our language. It's got to be in the music, in the dance, in the soap opera. It needs effective communications to involve people.
Is there good coordination between NCCA and DepEd in this regard?
Yes.
Because there should, I mean, these are the two agencies that really...
Yeah,
Before,
and
they're only
DepEd,
one.
Yun nga ho, I was going to ask you that before.
Yes.
the
DepEd
DepEd.
is a member of
Yes.
NCCA
pati
board.
sports.
Yes.
Isa lang yun.
Oho. Now, when the two agencies, when the agency was split apart, did it somehow affect the closeness of coordinating and...
Meron din coordination, but syempre separate na.
Yes, yeah.
That's
Unlike
the-
before,
that's
it's
the
just one
important.
body
Oh.
handling
So
all that.
But
nagiging-
before, only one.
Yes.
Lahat.
But I think you can remarry them again. If they were divorced for a while, you can have a second time around where the common need is what's going to bind them. And then it's very important because of the ASEAN regional solidarity that must be built. Arts is one of the fastest way to bind people together. Our workshop in Bohol had people from Asia with common problems like us. Bangladesh, which is continually flooded,
Yes,
which has
yes.
the impact of war. Sri Lanka, which is still under, pressure with regard to rebellion.
Yes.
You have the Tamils. Indonesia, which had the tsunami, and Cambodia. So there's, this is the way to, connect us together and find the common solutions that will help us. And the arts is the fastest.
It is, it
I
is.
mean, I'm glad President Aquino has given us a wonderful message which said this is now a major issue in dialogue. This is supported by the UNESCO Director General, by the Asia Pacific Bureau, Dr. Gishan, the International Theater Institute, which has 100 nations. This is a whole army that can, you know, be marching together, mobilized,
Yes.
no bombs, but affirming life.
Yes. Ladies, unfortunately, we've come to the end of our show. 25 minutes goes very fast in the second segment. But before we go, let's have a message first. Let's start with Secretary Beliz, no?
Well, we have high hopes for education in this country. We hope that our students will be at par with the rest, you know, rest of the world. And this challenge coming from our teachers, our principals, to do their part. So we look forward to a better Philippines in the future. All the things that we're doing, what DepEd, CHED, and TESDA, are all in connection with the recommendations, suggestions, and they are very forward-looking. So we look to creativity and things like that. So more power to education in this country. Thank you.
No, thank you, ma'am. And we will definitely have a show on K-12 and talk about a show centered on education, solely on education, so we can talk about this topic in detail and in depth.
Thank you.
Yes, madam. And Ms. Alvarez?
Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to share the message. Every World Theatre Day, we in the International Theatre Institute select an outstanding personality to give a message. You were just in South Africa with your wonderful swimming event. And now the message is coming also from a South African playwright, director, designer. And I just like to quote from what he has said, because it's so relevant to what Mona and I were talking with you about. And I think this is a wonderful way to remember World Theatre Month, and this message has been translated by former KWF Chairman Jolad Santos. It says, "We gather to weep and to remember, to laugh and to contemplate, to learn and to affirm and imagine, to celebrate the wealth of our various cultures, and to dissolve the boundaries that divide us." Wherever there is human society, the irrepressible spirit of performance manifests, born of community, wearing the masks and the costumes of our varied tradition. It harnesses our languages and rhythms and gestures and clears a space in our midst. But in this era, which has so many millions struggling to survive, suffering under oppressive regimes and predatory capitalism, fleeing conflict and hardship, in which our privacy is invaded by secret services and our words are censored by intrusive governments, in which forests are being annihilated, species exterminated, and oceans poisoned, what do we feel compelled to reveal? Are we, the artists of arenas and stagings, conforming to the sanitized demands of the market? Or do we gather people around us to inspire and chant and inform and to create a world of hope and open-hearted collaboration? I think that's a wonderful message for all. We salute all of our artists working to show that arts is a force for education. And please don't forget to access us so that we can really mobilize the arts, its healing power, to unite us, to give hope, to sustain the resiliency of our people, to win over this difficult situation and overcome the challenge of climate change.
Maraming salamat po. Very
Maraming
well said. Thank you very
salamat
much.
din.
So ladies, thank you for coming to the show, and we're definitely going to have you ladies again on different topics. Thank you very much po. Mabuhay po
Thank
kayo.
you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. So guys, I hope you enjoyed our show on celebrating International Women's Month here in Philippines Uncut. Join us again next week here in the show where we talk about what matters to you, because you guys matter the most. I'll see you next week.